This is what you need to see. One project, 3 cups. It's a design that Thumbcat Media has come up with. My part in it here, and what you're seeing here, is coming up with the design of the individual electronics circuits that make this idea work. The uniqueness of it is something that I could describe from the standpoint of it being a very utilitarian device that incorporates a couple things into one package. So it's the kind of thing that videographers need. So basically this incorporates the microphone preamplifier that also has phantom power available for condenser microphones or other signal sources that use that kind of power. And then that feeds into a section that isolates the outputs of that preamplifier, one going to the camera directly and one going to auxiliary outputs on the box. None of those are physically connected to one another, so none of them can interfere with one another, and you get a solid, reliable output from it that way. And then there's a headphone amplifier as well, so that whoever's using the camera can just plug a set of headphones in and listen, and it's all right on the box. But I think it solves more problems than that, because at the physical end, once the custom box is developed, it's going to be connected to the camera. It seems to me that there are a lot of products out on the market that do a couple of these things, but those products are very expensive. I think this will provide better results than a couple of those other things combined, especially when it's all in one package. Hold on just a second. Oh, here's a motherboard. You might need this. There's some capacitors. Put those on something. Old school, they use these things. These support the potentiometers, and these are full-size regular pots. And they're screwed into the front of the chassis, the front of the metal chassis. The nut goes on here, so this is being held into the front of the chassis, and each one of these pots has a metal support on it that's soldered into the board so that they can't be jerked loose. Oh, yeah. These pots are full-size pots that will be bolted in through the side of the box that they're mounted in. So any stress that these pots are under during normal use, it's just going to affect the part of it that's meant to be turned. It's going to affect the part of it that's mounted in the box. It's not going to affect the connections, and this is where it's delicate. So this unit's going to be designed with some old school ways and means in mind, or it is being designed that way. The switches are the same thing. They're just regular switches that are bolted in through the side of the box. If this is mounted on a cheap PC board, and somebody's able to move it around or damage it, it's just poking through the hole, which I've seen, and it gets sheared off, it may damage the board as well. Old school has a place, man, it really does. So power, I want to talk about power. So there's a battery mounted on it that's feeding power into it, and then there's an external power input that you can plug anything into. In the sense of having external batteries. You could plug a lead acid cell into it, a 12-volt lead acid cell. You could plug in a battery belt. You could plug in any source. You could even plug it into a vehicle, the cigarette lighter on a vehicle. And there are voltage regulators that are going into this circuitry to regulate that voltage so that it doesn't go over a limit. And there will be 2 external power connections for accessories. Those accessory connections have a thermal circuit breaker attached. So there's protection there. It's protection for the battery, it's protection for the wiring inside the device, and it's protection for the devices that are connected to it. The battery that's on board, which is also hot swappable, but the battery that's on board and the external power source they'll be isolated from one another, so they don't interfere with one another. So you can use both at the same time. So with the ability to use an external power source, you really don't have to worry about changing a battery out.